Aerial firefighting is already one of the most dangerous kinds of aviation there is. Pilots have to maneuver heavily laden, sluggish planes over rough terrain at low altitude, often amid severe turbulence and poor visibility thanks to all that smoke. Now, pilots battling the LA wildfires are facing a whole new kind of danger: illegal drones. On Thursday, January 9th, a Super Scooper plane fighting the Palisades fire collided with a drone that tore a hole in the wing, forcing it to land and taking it out of the fight at a time when it was urgently needed. In the aftermath, the FAA promised severe punishment for anyone caught flying drones in a way that interfered with firefighting, with penalties of up to 12 months in prison and $75,000 in fines. But the uncomfortable reality is that there's little that the authorities can do to prevent illegal drone flights. Thursday's accident occurred around 1 p.m. as firefighters struggled to contain a blaze that had grown to more than 17,000 acres, but was spreading less aggressively thanks to a temporary lull in the winds. The aircraft was a twin-engine CL-415, a Canadian-built amphibious aircraft specifically designed for aerial firefighting. It can skim along the surface of a lake or the ocean and scoop up to 1,600 gallons of water at a time. And that allows it to carry out a lot of sorties in a short amount of time because it doesn't have to go back to the airport to be refilled like a lot of firefighting aircraft do. A picture posted online by the LA County Fire Department showed a fist-sized hole in the leading edge of the plane's left wing. According to reporting by Warzone, the incident led to a temporary grounding of all aircraft tasked to the Palisade fire. That's obviously a very big problem. If some random drone user is causing is causing the shutdown of the entire firefighting effort for that fire, which has been an incredibly devastating fire, perhaps the most economically disastrous in modern history. That's something to really be concerned about. The FAA has known for years about the risk that drones pose for conventional aircraft. Over the last decade, it has effectively reorganized the entire U.S. airspace in a way that makes it possible to deconflict drones and manned aircraft. Last year, the FAA implemented a rule mandating that all drones weighing more than half a pound carry a system called remote ID that broadcasts a unique identifier linking that device to a database of users. I reached out to the FAA after Thursday's accident, and I asked them about the measures that they're taking. They replied, quote, "The FAA is working on developing remote ID data sharing capabilities for law enforcement so they can have access to FAA registration information." That's great. The wording implies to me that the system isn't in operation yet. I asked for clarification. I haven't yet received it. Under normal circumstances, operators can fly their drones at altitudes of up to 400 feet, so long as they can maintain line of sight with the vehicle. There are some exceptions to that that will probably be increased in the years to come as delivery drones, for instance, become more prevalent. But for now, that's pretty much the rule. With some exceptions, as an operator, you have to be able to see your drone. And for the most part, those rules keep these drones out of the way of manned aircraft. For the most part, manned aircraft don't fly below 400 feet except when they're taking off or landing. However, firefighting aircraft are different. In order to firebomb a wildfire effectively, a pilot really needs to get in as low as he can. So that puts it in danger of low-flying drones. To keep drones and other aircraft out of the way, the FAA establishes no-fly zones called temporary flight restrictions, or TFRs, where wildfire fighting is taking place. It established a TFR over the Palisades fire on January 9th that is currently scheduled to continue until January 23rd. Officials haven't said yet whether they know what kind of drone the Super Scooper collided with, or whether it was transmitting a remote ID signal. According to LA Times, LA County Fire Chief Anthony Marconi said that the FBI was sending what he called aerial armor to prevent unauthorized drone flights. I reached out to the FBI's Los Angeles office. They told me that they are sending their anti-drone unit, the Counter Unmanned Aircraft Systems Task Force, to investigate the incident. But they couldn't really provide me with details about the team's equipment, techniques, or capabilities. I understand that some of these things have to be somewhat secret in order to be effective. The interdiction of rogue drones is not an easy task. Drones are small, they're difficult to spot, and they can appear and disappear quickly. As I recently wrote about in New York Magazine, officials were completely flummoxed by the mass drone sightings in New Jersey recently, and they were unable to identify a single one. The job of enforcing drone rules is not entirely impossible. In 2020, an LAPD helicopter was responding to a burglary in Hollywood when it struck a drone. The pilot had to make an emergency landing. There was some damage to the underside of the aircraft. Officers on the ground found the drone in pieces, and investigators were able to retrieve images from its memory card that led them to a resident named Andrew Hernandez. They arrested him. They charged him in federal court with an offense called unsafe operation of unmanned aircraft, which is punishable by up to a year in prison. Ultimately, Hernandez pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation, and I believe he paid a fine as well. In the case of the LA wildfire accident on Thursday, it's not clear if any debris from the drone was collected. I suspect not. And I think that if there wasn't, hopes of catching the culprit seem rather slim. Given the difficulties of enforcing the rules, the most effective way to minimize the danger of aircraft drone collisions may simply be to keep drone operators cognizant of the rules and hope that they use good sense. Judging by the recent behavior, there's a lot of progress to be made on that front, however. Drone images and video footage of the LA wildfires have proliferated on social media. They're very easy to find. Some of the people posting them are mainstream news organizations. The FAA sometimes grants waivers to TFRs, but it has said that it has not done so in relation to the LA wildfires, meaning that any drone footage that shows a perspective hovering over these burned out areas, especially the Palisades, that almost certainly was shot illegally. So until a significant majority of drone operators understands how important it is to stay out of these no-fly zones, accidents like the one that took place on Thursday are likely to continue, and that will hurt efforts to fight back against wildfires.